So we're in the process of setting up Hood Strikes North. We're probably going to do a one-turn scenario just to learn the rules. And the first thing we're trying to do is make sense of this map. And so we've got the compass rose here. The major city on the map is Nashville. You've also got Murfreesboro here, and then you've got Lewisburg here. And when I looked at the map on my phone, Google Maps, the way to orient myself, well, basically what I realized is that this is the heart of Tennessee. This is far away from Georgia. But the main way to orient myself is that there's this road that goes from Nashville south, which kind of corresponds to this Red Railroad, and it passes to the west of Lewisburg. And that is the main road nowadays that goes to Alabama, south to Alabama. And then the other orientation is that you've got this other major road / railroad here, and this is what goes to Chattanooga. But Chattanooga is important because Chattanooga is the border between Tennessee and Georgia. So that's how they kind of, got in on the Confederacy and did a whole bunch of damage. But it's still far from where this map is showing. So it looks like you take this distance between Nashville and Murfreesboro, and you need to multiply that by like 3 or 4 more to get to Chattanooga from Murfreesboro. So that gives me some rough sense of where I am and like what the context is for this whole thing. So I'm trying to get more context on what's going on in this game. And so apparently I flipped to the scenario book that I haven't read yet, and I switched to the end, which is the designer notes. And so apparently this all takes place after Sherman has already reached Atlanta. And so this is Hood trying to kind of counterattack. So Hood, the guy who's the main character here, he was the guy who was defending Georgia and Atlanta, and he was pushed out of Atlanta by Sherman. And so this is his, I guess, it seems like this is his counterattack or his attempt to counterattack. So basically he left Atlanta, he kind of like tried to cause some chaos on the railroad, and then he pulled back to Alabama, and then he started moving north from Alabama into Tennessee with the idea of taking Nashville. For what reason, I'm not sure. I don't think it's made very clear. I don't even think the designer was sure what his rationale was. And you can see here. So to take Nashville would then leave the way open, in Hood's own post-war words, to march northeast past the Cumberland River. And in that position, I could threaten Cincinnati, if blessed with victory, to send reinforcements to Lee, or to march through gaps in the Cumberland Mountains and attack Grant in the rear. So that was kind of what he was thinking. And in the real turn of events, I believe it failed. He was pushed back. You see retreat and pursuit, but I have not read that much yet, so I have to read more. So I had not split up the counters beforehand, and I was wondering how I'm supposed to use this setup chart to place my guys. And what I realized is that what you want to do is, maybe start by looking at the command. If you have your units divided up by command, so for example, if this is 4th Corps, maybe you have a baggie just for 4th Corps. Where's 4th Corps? It would be on the left here. So there, the blue. You see the left number is 4. So then once you find the correct command baggie, then you would look for the correct sized marker. So district would be a leader, and so you would look at one of your leader counters. So there's Schofield. Whereas division would be a division, which would be 2 X's. You're looking for something with 2 X's. There we go. And if you see brigade, that would be something with 1 X at the top. So that's what you look for. And then, and that's pretty. Corps would be 3 X's, I believe, at the top. So that, I think, is how you would quickly find the units that you're looking for. Stanley he's a leader. Okay, there we go. That also makes it clear. So Stanley, there he is. Okay, got it. Yeah. So we just finished setting up all of the different counters. So there's you've got one guy over there, one Union unit over there, and otherwise everybody's over here. I found it helpful to divide up or organize my strength counters like a phone dial. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to make it easier to find the ones that I want. We have more units in different hexes than we have force spots. So I figured maybe just pick the ones that have the most number of counters and use those as the force ones. But yeah, we could be messing things up, but it's looking okay so far. Yeah, see what happens. So one thing we're a little bit confused by is that the Confederate player automatically wins the first initiative, but then it's talking about initiative after that. I thought you only roll for initiative once per turn, but maybe not. Maybe you roll more than once per turn. Yeah, so let me look that up. Okay, after consulting the rules, I remembered that you roll for initiative after each player takes an action. So it's like in Rebel Fury, you're just alternating back and forth without any randomness there. It's as if in Rebel Fury, after each of you do one thing, move one unit, you then roll to see who's going to go to get to move a unit next. So it's a little bit more complicated than in Rebel Fury, but it's interesting. So that's where that initiative roll is coming in. That's what we were confused by. Okay, so I just clarified for myself what's going on in this scenario. So the Confederates are going to try to capture Columbia, and they're also trying to prevent these guys, these Union forces, from getting into Columbia. The Union forces have been marching north towards Columbia, and I guess the idea is that they want to continue to march on that road towards Columbia and not be stopped by the Confederates. So we're running into the first issue, which is that he's just activated one of his guys, which is a stack, and now he did a leader activation, and so now I think we're supposed to resolve the movements one unit at a time. And so his question is, well, is he supposed to remove them from his little force board over there to put them over here? Right, but then are they going to get separated from their different counters? So it's a little bit unclear to us how you're supposed to resolve these units movements one at a time, and also use that force marker and that board over there. So we reasoned that if they're not doing any kind of combat, then you can just calculate the cost for one of them, and then if they're all the same type, like cavalry or infantry, then they're all gonna, or it doesn't, I guess that part doesn't even matter. But so he started here, so it was 1 to go to that hex, and then 2 to get in as far as that hex, and then he moved off-road at that point into that hex, which cost 6 for the woods. So that was 8, and then 3 more to enter a clear hex. So 8 plus 3 was 11. And then at that point, he was moving along a road, so he was able to get into that hex for just 1 movement point, or 12. And 12 was the number of... 12 was what he had rolled. He had rolled at an 11, but then he got a +1 for some reason. Because you're a leader, I think. When you roll as a leader, you get a +1, I think. Yeah, so that was the first movement.
Yeah, I don't want to follow that road.
So for my first ever movement in the GCACW system, I moved more along the railroad into Columbia. And so I'll probably put them all into a force to clean this up. So one mistake we made was he had given himself a +1 to his rolls for the movement points, because he thought it was +1 for Confederates. But actually, the rule is if it's a Confederate cavalry leader, you get a +2. So he moved his guys another hex along the road, and so that was that first move, and now his second move is moving that second force, which is also cavalry. Yeah. Well, if you want to change it, you can. I don't care.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Understanding how that.
Yeah, we're both learning. So for his previous turn, he just moved that stuff up there. We're on the third action phase, I guess you would call it. For my second action, I retreated my cavalry towards the town because they were exhausted. It was a forced march, so I had to roll on the what is it called? Forced march table. There was no effect, and now he is activating his corps commander, and he had moved his other 2 cavalry leaders within range of his corps commander, 7 hexes. So now, by activating his corps commander, he just got an extremely lucky double 6s roll. And so all of the units under all of his guys that are within 7 are going to get 15 movement points. And he just said that he had screwed up on his previous one by not moving it another hex closer to be within range. So I said, sure, don't worry about it, just move him. We're both learning. So very cool. This is a very cool game. I can see how people fall in love with this game. So we were just spending some time learning how attacking works. And so he activated his corps and he moved all of his cavalry up. He decided not to attack when he moved his cavalry up here because he wanted to wait until a future action to do an assault, which would allow him, I guess, to... I mean, you only have 1 unit in that hex anyway.
2.
Oh, you have 2?
That's what I'm just trying to figure out now, whether I want to put the second unit
Okay. Well,
that hex there.
okay, so he wanted to wait until another future action to do an assault rather than an attack during the march. So during the last action phase, I advanced my infantry up. That was this group, very strong division. I advanced them up the railroad, and they attacked this cavalry that was there, and they knocked it out of the way. It retreated. It had to retreat that way, and then these guys were out of movement points. A lot of steps to resolve the combat, but the detail was interesting. I appreciated the detail, even though it took longer to resolve. And so now I won initiative, and I'm going to activate this corps leader and try to move these 4 infantry units up through that gap that I just created. Okay, so we just finished. I just tried to move my units into Columbia as much as possible. This force 4, is at fatigue level 4, and it's disorganized, so I'm unable to move it close enough to within 3 hexes of Columbia to avoid giving victory points to the Confederates. All of my guys are too fatigued to attack this Confederate force that had moved into that fortification hex. I should have moved a unit into that hex earlier. My cavalry were useless. I think I should have moved them maybe back this way and then tried to get them to hold this road open because I ended up having to attack a lot with my infantry on this road, and there was a traffic jam, so they took more fatigue than necessary to get into Columbia if I had my cavalry hold this road open. So yeah, learnings from me. I think it was a good idea to move that Union unit along the railroad into Columbia. I think maybe I should have moved a unit, maybe one of those infantry units that was in Columbia, into that fortification hex. I think I should have moved my cavalry over onto this road. Maybe I should have started with the cavalry moving onto this road and then only moved the railroad unit when necessary. Apparently it was a Union marginal victory. It takes a while to resolve things because of all the different modifiers and charts that you have to consult. So I can see the appeal of something like the Rebel Fury system, where everything gets resolved a lot faster. But it is cool to have all that extra detail. Yeah, it is cool to have all that extra detail. So I'll just get a clip of the state of everything. So these are the different Confederate forces. These are the different Union forces. Everybody's ending at fatigue 4. We had forgotten to put those demoralized markers at first. There's so many different statuses. Having the disorganized and demoralized different statuses and the fatigue status, it can get confusing, especially because it doesn't seem to be especially... as far as I can tell, the manual doesn't have a section where it explains conceptually what these different statuses are trying to convey. I think it's just kind of left to you to try to, infer, make your best guess, or take your best effort to try to infer what the statuses are. But I am so happy that I got to try this system. I am looking forward to playing more scenarios in this system. I can see why people say this is like the best hex encounter system ever. I can totally see why. I think I'm leaning towards agreeing with them based on what the different hex encounter systems I've seen so far. So it's a very, very cool system. I thought I'd make just one more video now that I have everything baggied up after we finish playing, to explain how I divided everything up at my first attempt. So I got one small baggie for the dice, and now what I have is Union baggies, Confederate baggies, and what would you call this? Non-side, neutral baggies. So this is all of the Union counters, the actual leaders, I guess you would call them, broken up by cores. So each core, which is those little colors, the color in the center is represents a different core. Each core's counters, all the different divisions associated with a particular core, are in their own little small baggie. All the cavalry is in its own small baggie. These are all the strength point counters, manpower counters, where each different number, so this is 2, this is 1, all those different numbers are each in their own small baggies. And then this is all the miscellaneous Union counters that I haven't really used yet, but they're also broken up by counter type. Each counter type is in its own small baggie. Same thing with the Confederates. I have not broken these guys out into cores yet, just because I don't remember why I did that. I think I ran out of small baggies. No, I didn't. I don't remember why I didn't do it for the Confederacy. I think I ran out of time when I was doing it in my room. Same thing for the strength manpower counters, and there are not a lot of miscellaneous Confederate counters. So you see here, they have got the substitute counters and the demoralized counters. And then for the neutral ones, so you've got your fatigue counters. There's only 2 different type of counters here. You've got the 1/2 counter and the 3/4 counter. So I just threw them all together, because you're never gonna, at least so far, I'm not gonna run into a situation where I'm gonna have trouble picking between them just by reaching into the bag. This one is a bunch of miscellaneous counters that I haven't used a whole lot so far. Got the turn track counter and the movement counter there, and the initiative counter, but mostly I haven't used these yet. And then these are environmental counters like bridges, fortifications, artillery, all the white counters with the white backgrounds have going in here, where each small baggie is all the counters of a particular type. So I think this is going to work pretty well. It seems to be working pretty well so far. So yeah, just wanted to make a note of that for my own future reference. So yesterday I played the first scenario of this. I'm probably going to just tack on this thought to the end of the video, the playthrough video. But I was just thinking about what was it that made this game so popular with people. What do people love about it? And I think it's analogous to if you took a tactical system like ASL, maybe something like that, and you actually did a ton of research and created a way bigger map, because ASL uses those, I don't know what the dimensions are of those, but they're not large maps. But imagine that you did a 22-inch by 34-inch map that was based on real terrain from wherever, I'm not sure, maybe like, it would have to be someplace where the combat moved through the terrain. So maybe in a city or something. But just imagine you had a 22 by 34-inch map, ASL map, or whatever tactical system you wanted, with the hexes being this small, the counters being this small. You would cover a lot of ground, and then imagine it was researched, so all the terrain was realistic, and then what actually happens in the terrain is realistic, like the flow of the battle, maybe the arrival of reinforcements, stuff like that. They worked it out to have it be realistic. I think that's really what the core of it is that one of these scenarios, one turn in this game seems like it might be similar to something like an ASL scenario. So imagine a 30-day ASL campaign that took place all on one 22 by 34-inch map, where you're moving across the map, you're fighting across the map, and it's all very extremely researched, realistically. The terrain is realistic and all that stuff. I'm just kind of repeating myself, but I think really that's kind of the essence of what people love about this, because there's nothing like in the rules themselves, as far as I can tell, that seems especially groundbreaking. It's the detail is also, I guess that's another thing, is that the detail of the different types of fatigue is cool. I think it's interesting. So the detail is nice in the resolution of actions. And I guess ASL is a little bit gamey. I don't know. I don't know the game that well, but yeah, I could see something like, I could see the philosophy behind this game being brought to other, what would you call that? Other eras, other conflicts, other scales, command scales. I don't think there's anything inherent to the Civil War or, being in charge of what would you call this, campaign. I don't think there's anything. I think it's really more about just seeing things play out over a long period of time. Yeah, I don't know. So I just wanted to get that thought down. Like, I feel like you could do something like this at the tactical level if it was, it wouldn't be one turn per day. It would be like a 30-day campaign where you would imagine each day would take around maybe 2 hours to play, something like that, 2 to 3 hours to play. And then everything was, the terrain was well researched. And then you try to make the combat the mechanics researched as well, rather than gamey, which is what some people try to do with their games. Anyway, yeah, I think that's the last thing I want to say.